Hey, what's up guys, this is Tristan, and welcome back to another jaw-dropping, breathtaking, hair-raising episode of Manga Debate. Now, for this episode, I was kind of debating whether to actually make this episode or not, because when I was thinking about it, I was like, that's not really something that's too debated over. But then when I really thought about it, I realized that there are a lot of people who probably do wonder this, whether they've not read much of One Piece or not read much of Fairy Tail, or haven't read really either of them. And overall, a lot of people probably wonder this topic if they're not really too familiar with one series, so I hope this video helps you guys, and this is mainly just to share my opinions on this topic. Anyways though, without a further ado, let's get into it. Fairy Tail versus One Piece, and let's see who's gonna win the big hitter Homer Manga Debate trophy. The truth. So the first category is none other than the story, and I'm going to start off talking about Fairy Tail, because Fairy Tail starts off with this guy named Natsu who goes off to find his dragon father named Igneel, and along the way he meets a girl named Lucy who tags along, and her goal is to become a powerful wizard. Now, I personally think that the storyline for Fairy Tail is actually pretty decent. I know a lot of people like to say that Fairy Tail doesn't have a storyline whatsoever, and it definitely does. But the main problem is that it doesn't really utilize the story until halfway through the series. And what I mean by that is, at the beginning of the series, he goes off to find Igneel, but then he doesn't even resume that goal until volume 30 or around that area, and he's not even trying to actively pursue that goal in the meantime. He's basically just going around on these different missions, and it basically feels like a video game where they go off, get some experience, come back, and then go on another mission that's a little bit tougher than the first one. With that being said though, I definitely don't think that all these volumes are a complete waste of time, and even though Fairy Tail gets a lot of cheese, and even though it's a kind of a lousy series in my opinion, I definitely think that it's far from the worst series I've read, and it definitely does have some great arcs. The Galuna Island arc and the Tower of Heaven arc especially are easily two of the best arcs in the series, probably the greatest arcs in the series. I mean, if you're going to read any point in Fairy Tail, definitely read the Galuna Island and the Tower of Heaven stuff, because that stuff is worth reading in my opinion. But besides those two arcs, the series really just feels like wasted potential, and a lot of the stuff just really falls flat. Now, on the other side of things, talking about the storyline for One Piece, I mean, basically it's about this guy named Luffy who goes off to find some treasure and he wants to be the #1 pirate. Now, on the surface, the storyline doesn't really reel me in, it doesn't really interest me too much, but it does remind me an awful lot of the movie The Goonies on the surface, one of my favorite movies of all time, but as a manga, it kind of falls flat in terms of the general story for me, but that doesn't really matter. I think that in a manga, the storyline doesn't really matter too much if the execution is great, and vice versa. If the story is amazing, but the execution is poor, I mean, it doesn't really matter. The execution is mainly the thing that matters in the story. And honestly, if I had to choose between the general surface level One Piece story versus the surface level storyline for Fairy Tail, I'd probably choose the Fairy Tail story, but the execution is so much better in One Piece that it's actually kind of laughable. I can make an entire separate video on the world of One Piece if I wanted to, because there's just so much to talk about. It's all these different characters from different villages and different places just weaving together, and it makes such a great story overall. The Straw Hat Crew visiting all these different villages that basically feel like actual places where people could live, places like Dressrosa, Whole Cake Island, Alabasta, some of my favorite villages in One Piece, and they feel so real, like actual characters could live there and not just fighting arenas for the characters to go. And I know that Dressrosa literally has a fighting arena in there, but that's not really what I'm talking about. So yeah, the clear winner for category #1 is One Piece. I mean, it's not much of a competition there. The next category though is the artwork, and I'm not even gonna sugarcoat this here, it's Fairy Tail. I mean, Fairy Tail, the artwork was great from the start, and it just gets even better as the story goes on. And I'm not even gonna lie here, I mean, the best part of Fairy Tail, without a doubt, is the artwork, because even though the writing gets super sloppy at times, the artwork really never gets sloppy, and it's pretty impressive how fast Hiro Mashima could draw this well, because he can crank out chapters in just a few days, and it's pretty impressive that he does that with the artwork. But I mean, with the story, I mean, it kind of makes sense there, not gonna lie. In terms of One Piece, the artwork starts off incredibly cartoonish, which I don't really mind, because it kind of reminds me of those classic, like, late 90s, early 2000s Cartoon Network shows. And I like that art style, but for a manga, I think that it's kind of shaky at times. And overall, I wasn't really a huge fan of the East Blue artwork, even though I didn't hate it. Currently though in One Piece, Ichiro Oda has grown tremendously in terms of drawing characters, and it looks great. I mean, all the characters that originally looked kind of goofy now look really cool, and I really like most of the new character designs, except for Frankie, which I prefer his old one. With that being said though, the one thing that definitely hasn't improved in my opinion, and one of the worst things about One Piece, is that the pages really look overly complex now. And I think that the overly complex shots look really good when the entire panel is just a setting, but when there's characters and the background looks really overly complex and overly detailed, it really slows down the pacing because you have to look at all of that and then the speech bubbles kind of blend in and it's just a big mess. So I really wish One Piece would improve upon that. I'm not sure if it ever will, but that is really one of my biggest complaints with the series. Next up, for the third and final category, is none other than the characters. And for the characters in Fairy Tail, I mean, I think that at the start of the series, they have a really nice dynamic. The characters just really mesh well together. But the main problem is there's way too many of them as the story goes on. And it's really just a mess, and it's too much to pay attention to all at once, but you kind of just assume that they're all going to be in the background and they're not all going to be focused on. But Hiro Mashima kind of tries to give each one of the characters too much of a big focus, developing all their powers and whatnot, and it could work if the series was much longer and done properly and whatnot, and that's one of the biggest things that led to Fairy Tail's failure. Not only this, but I think that a lot of the characters almost get progressively more unlikable as the series goes on, and characters that I really loved at the start of the series, such as Jalal or Urza, either become wasted potential, or they just become so unlikable that you just don't really care about them at all. On the other side of things with One Piece, it's no competition whatsoever that One Piece wins this one, because One Piece has a complete plethora of amazing characters. The majority of the Straw Hat crew members are pretty likable, even though there are a few that I don't really care for all that much, and just the worst generation, the Supernovas, really have such a great dynamic with the Straw Hat crew. And overall, I really don't have a ton of complaints about the characters in One Piece besides the villains, because even though I really do like some of the villains such as Aokiji and Akainu, they haven't really gotten too much page time, so hopefully we see a lot more of them in the series. I really like those two characters. And overall, I think that a lot of villains in One Piece are either just not that handled well in their conclusion, or they're just not that dynamic to begin with. And even though this isn't really a humongous deal, because I do think that One Piece has a lot of great characters, I wish that there were some more dynamic villains in the series, so hopefully we see some more of that. So overall, the big winner of this manga debate episode is, of course, One Piece, and it gets the golden big hitter manga debate T-Dog approved trophy. It doesn't get much better than that. I mean, just look at this thing. I mean, the resale value on this thing must be insanely high. I mean, it's honestly priceless. So it wins the big trophy of the day. Anyways, guys, that's pretty much it for this video. If you enjoyed, make sure to slap that like button and subscribe if you want to see me in YouTube Rewind 2019. That's going to be pretty crazy. But with all that being said and done, I will see you guys in the next video.
Damn, son, where'd you find this?